where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been talking about organizing. We've been talking about, you know, before you came on, D was talking about, boom, we gotta, you know, get it in. We gotta get, we gotta build
Mm-hmm.
that immune system, for lack of better words.
Right.
What's your thoughts? Let's get some feedback from you.
Well, I'm very, very excited about that. First, let me say this about the electoral arena and how the white power structure has created this arena to maintain their colonial occupation of our communities and colonial occupation all over the world, and pushing imperialism, cultural imperialism, as well as economic and political imperialism, and of course, colonial capitalism right here in America. But check out the electoral system. Most people listening to this or watching this broadcast never voted for president in their life. They can't. What people voted for on November 5th, this wasn't a presidential election on November 5th. It was an electoral politics election. Every state has a number of electoral uh, uh, college appointees, and that comes from each party. So let's say New York has 28, uh, California has 54. You saw all night they were trying to get to what? 270.
277.
And
Yeah.
the magic, the only people that can vote for president is the electors in December. So they're going to go in December and they're going to vote. And they had a history of what they call faithless electors. In many states, you have to vote for the party that won the majority vote in that state. But in
Absolutely.
some states, they don't even have to vote for the candidate of their party. So in 2020, I'll get the figures today for this one, but in 2020, there were 240 million registered American voters. 160 million came out to vote. 80 million stayed home. And when you look at that, of that 160 million in 2020, Trump got 74 million. That's incredible. And Biden got 81 million. Also incredible. So they had 155 million. Then there were 5 million independent voters. So can you imagine, of 160 million people that came out to vote, only 538 can vote for president directly.
Can you explain electoral college, brother? Because I think
Electoral
that's one of
college
the things.
came into existence in the South.
All right, let Charles do this electoral college piece, and then we'll go to you real quick, Ruben, because I think a lot of folks
in the
aren't paying
South,
attention to that.
when the country first started in 1776, they had a constitutional convention in 1789, and they wanted to determine how are we going to elect the president. So they said, well, let's have a committee in Congress and they'll elect the president. They said no. They said, all right, why don't we let the governors do it? They said no. They said, all right, how about the state legislatures? We'll let them elect the president. They said no. Well, how about the popular vote? Just let the popular vote do it. The people voted. They said no. So they came up with this electoral college because the South had 4 million Africans. That's where the 2/3 or 2/5, 3/3, what is it?
That's right.
3/5.
That's right.
That's where the 3/5 of human beings came in, because the electoral number is based upon the congressional representation in the state. And as the Ruber said, that's based upon the census count. The census count. And even though whites are counted twice and we undercounted, the census count. So they said the South would have all the presidents every time because they got all these African people. And if they're counted as a vote or a citizen or resident, then they would win. So they came up with this compromise called the Electoral College system. They said no one can have less than 3. Small states like, Vermont, Iowa, New Hampshire, they got 3, 4, and 5. And then you have the higher states, like California has the most, 54. And so you know what they do? They have these. This is how capitalism maintains its power through the electoral system. It's winner take all. Y'all remember Ross Perot when he won? Ran? Ross Perot ran. He was on the ballot, the businessman, in all 50 states. Ross Perot got 20 million votes and no electoral votes because he didn't win not one state. It's winner take all. So DeRuba and I are running in a state, and we both say, okay, we're running in New York. So if you're doing an independent party or whatever party, you have to send the Board of Election your list of electors, or else you're off the ballot because you're not voting for president. You're voting for the electors. DeRuba sends his 28 in. I send my 28 in. DeRuba gets 51% of the vote. I get 49% of the vote, damn near half the electorate. He gets all 28 electoral votes. I get none. Even if I don't think they should have the system at all, but if they at least said proportional distribution of the electoral votes, then third parties can influence and pick the next president. But by saying winner take all, you know it's going to be a Republican or a Democrat. So there is no democracy.